James Armstrong. So talk to me about deal packaging then. So what I want to know is, and we'll open it up as well for people to talk to. When you find a deal, what's the first thing that you do? Like, what's the step-by-step process to being able to make money as a deal packager?
We need three things. You need a deal, you need someone to buy it, and then you need the knowledge of the legal and the compliance to sort of draw it all together.
So hold on. So you need the deal.
Yep.
You need the compliance.
Yep.
And then what was the other thing?
Someone to buy the deal.
The investor.
Yep.
So an investor, a deal, and the compliance. Yeah, makes sense?
Yeah, so finding a deal is fairly straightforward, exactly what we did today, except go out and view it, clarify that that lead is indeed a deal, double check your figures, make sure you know them, as in you can stand on stage and tell everybody how much it actually makes. It's one thing being ripped apart by Samuel in a crowd, which is kind of light-hearted. It's different when there's a couple of £1,000 on the line and your entire reputation as a deal source is on the line, so know your figures inside and out, back to front.
Yeah.
Check them twice. Once you have your deal, you need to build your investor list. So we'll talk a little bit about finding investors. I think it's a big sort of area there. Finding investors is a strange one. They kind of come around when you wouldn't expect them to. You just put your name out there, and rule number one of property investing: tell everybody you're a property investor.
Yeah, so good.
And you'll be surprised how easy it is to sort of find people with money. I mean, little things like, I know Samuel's got a massive YouTube following, so in some respects you're getting out to 80,000 people.
8,000 subscribers, yeah.
Yeah, I did a Winners on a Wednesday, which some of you have seen, I know, and I had a call last week, as well as making 16K, from the head of global staffing at Google. That was a fun conversation.
You got a phone call from Google last week?
Yeah, he's putting £1 million into the UK property market.
Massive.
So, yeah.
So Google, the guy from Google wants to spend £1 million in the UK, and what does he want you to do exactly?
Everything. So I seem to have specialised in overseas investors. I found it quite, easy in some respects speaking to them. My deal sourcing is a little bit further than average. Find a deal, pass it on. I take care of all the stuff after they've bought the deal, right down to making sure the thing is painted or brought up to compliance standards, as well as the mortgages, the conveyancing, everything else that you could imagine. And because people live like 8-hour flights away, 12-hour flights away in a different time zone, it's not very easy for them to go and view the houses or to do what they need to do. So as long as you're actually producing what you say you're going to produce, it's a fabulous service for them. And people sometimes ask me, why would anyone buy a deal when I can just find one myself? I say, feel free, go find one. Yeah. Let me know when you bought a house, because I never do. People buy deals because they haven't got time, or they value their time more than the fee that they're going to pay somebody else to do it.
How much time does it take you on average to find a good deal to pass on?
Maybe 20 minutes online. Time it takes to go view the property, I spend about 15, 20 minutes in the property, 15 minutes drafting an email and collating the figures, and then, maybe a 10-minute phone call? So an hour, really? Spread out over a few days, but an hour, and you get paid, £3,000?
So it's not...
it's not passive, but it is massive.
Then when people say to you, well, what are you actually doing? I could do that myself. Your response is, great, do that yourself then, which is fair enough. Because the thing is, they can't do that themselves because you've got the skill.
Yeah, and I learned those skills in the academy, and anybody has the opportunity to sign up. It's just a question: do you want to take the action and make it happen?
Why do you love people signing up for the academy so much? Because he's always saying, interview this person. Like, why do you do that?
Because I've seen the way it's changed my life. I'm not the only person who'll say this, and you can ask everybody else in the academy, everyone else who's successful in property and probably successful in general. It's not the money that's the best part. It's not the money that makes you go out and do 60, 70, 80-hour weeks or continue doing what it is you're doing. It's because it's just so much damn fun. And you get calls from random people, you go out, you get deals. I still view my own houses, mainly because you have no idea what's going to happen when you're in that house being that agent. You don't know if you're going to get a lease option, you don't know if you're going to get an HMO, you just know the house has potential to get a deal. And then you just go with it, and you meet people, you have fabulous conversations, and the academy for me was the place to meet like-minded action takers, people who want to change their life, people who aren't satisfied by living a boring second-rate life, people who want to achieve something.
I know you've made a lot of friends in the academy. Tell me a bit about the compliance, and I really appreciate you as well, because James is a typical example of someone who's become a friend going through the training. And most of these guys on the academy as well. talk to me a little bit about, because we want to get down to the nitty-gritty of deal sourcing.
Yeah.
Tell me about compliance. So what would you advise someone do right now if they're in a situation where they can find deals, but they just don't know how to get started? Tell me about the compliance, and then we'll talk about some alternative ways how they can get started without even becoming compliant. But let's hear about the compliance.
First, you need a company. Form that. Takes about 15 minutes, or pay someone else to do it. You'll need a bank account to go with that company. When you open your bank account, get a client account. It basically means when they put money in that account, it's not yours, it's legally not yours, and if you go bankrupt, that money can't be taken by an insolvency company. Then you're going to want to get your anti-money laundering registration. You set up as an estate agency. Deal sources fall under the Estate Agency Act. I think it's just gone up, cost $450, $370, something like that. It used to be $250. It's not a lot. Just pay it, get it done. Read the legislation and packs that come with that. Make sure you're actually doing what you need to do as part of buying the anti-money laundering. Then get your professional indemnity insurance. There's a couple of brokers out there who will actually produce a specialist package of professional indemnity insurance for deal sources. Duncan Clark Insurance Brokers. Write them down. I can't remember the number, but if you write that down, you'll
Duncan
speak to
Clark
them.
Insurance.
Yeah, they did mine. Piece of cake, it's like 17 quid a month. Like, it's nothing. Data protection license, the ICO. Again, takes about half an hour. Do that online. 40 quid.
So it's all these little things that you really want to do, which might cost 40 quid here, 100 quid here. And how much would you say in total it costs to become completely compliant? And how long would that process take?
I'd probably say $2,000, because I would get my contracts drawn up by a solicitor rather than use someone else's. Just
sure. So to do it as like a belt and braces, with bespoke contracts all set up by solicitors, all the insurance, your company set up, you're talking around about 2,000 sort of top end.
Top end $2,000, you can do it for less. And the final thing you need is to be registered with a property redress scheme, either the PRS or the TPO.
Yeah.
TPO is probably slightly better, but
and
very similar.
Why is it so important to become compliant? Like, why can't you just go and sell deals on Facebook without being compliant?
One, it really adds to your reputation. I think when you're buying something from someone, if they've got the credentials and the legal stuff in place, it looks better, so they're more likely to buy. But realistically, it's the law. You don't have a choice, so get it. And especially for people like overseas people who are giving you money and buying a house that they've never seen, they need to have trust that when they send the money to a different country that's several hours away, it's going to what they think it's going to go to, and they're going to see the returns that they're expecting to get.
Yeah. So they can just see that you've got insurance, you're affiliated with a property ombudsman scheme, so if there's any problems, there's comeback. So it adds security for them, but also security for you.
Yeah, the contracts protect you and your investors. People might go, how do I stop an investor cutting me out of a deal? Basic process is I send them a legal contract which stops them doing that, and then they pay the fee direct. Then you get full disclosure over the property. But I can't take that money yet. It's in my client account. It's still your money. After 2 weeks, after refund period's lapsed, then I can draw that money out. I'll probably keep it there, to be honest, until the deal has gone through. Although I say 2 weeks legally, if it falls over 6 weeks later, I'll still refund the money. Like, my reputation is far more important than $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah, reputation is so important. So it sounds like a little bit of effort to get started, which is I guess if you're making £16,000 a week, it's not bad. But for some people, the idea of going on the academy or going on the right training, and then they're going to have to become compliant, and then it's like, oh my goodness, it's a lot of money and a lot of effort and sacrifice just on the basis that I might be able to make some money from selling deals. So tell them what we do on the academy with the co-deal sourcing when people are just getting started.
First, I challenge and say it's not a lot of money. I mean, I'll talk about the co-sourcing, but something like, I've got to put work in to get somewhere. What else were you expecting? You need to, if you want to be successful, you've got to be prepared to work for it. And if you're expecting an easy ride, that's not the case. It's not complex,
and the thing
but it's
is,
not easy.
And the thing is as well, James, is it's you're saying that from a position of you've been there. Like, you're not from a wealthy family where you've been born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I know when you joined the academy, it stung, right?
Very much so. I put the money on, in fact, it was a charge card, so I had about 3 weeks to clear it. There's no spending limit. You just buy stuff and
you lied to me a little bit as well, right?
I did flat out lie, yeah.
Tell them what happened.
Well, I was doing an interview with Russell, and he goes, do you have the money? And I went, yes, I do. And he went, fabulous. And they went on to the next question. That was it. I didn't. I had £200 in the account. It's like $12,000. So I just bought it, put it on the card, and went, right, I've got 3 weeks. It's fine, 12 grand. And I went to 17 different lenders, and I got a loan the day before the payment went out.
Jeez. So you're speaking from a position of you've been there, you've made the sacrifices, but then I guess if it hadn't have been such a big sacrifice, you might have not been so incentivized to then go and make it happen, right?
Yeah, and initially having that hole in your pocket is really powerful for making you motivated to do things. And after a bit, you fall in love with it. You fall in love with the people and the way things happen, and you just do it because you enjoy it. At which point your mindset changes, your life changes, and away you go. And there's no stopping you, and you end up on your mission, making 52 people financially free in a year. Back to your question about co-sourcing. Yeah, so when you join the academy, you have an opportunity to basically sell deals through the biggest sourcing company in the UK, Better Source Limited. Some of you will know Alistair, some of you might have even bought deals from him. Being on the academy, you have the opportunity to, every deal you want to send in and have vetted, you will have the likes of Samuel and his team. They will go through that deal, they will check and see, yeah, it is actually a genuine deal. So you have the confidence that people with 10, 15, 20 years experience in the industry know what they're talking about, and they've said that your deal stacks. And then Alistair will send that out on his list to his investors, and then he'll pay you a fee.
So basically what will happen is, for people that can't really afford, or they just don't want to become compliant, or they don't have the investors, they can just pass on the academy, they can just pass the deal to someone like Alistair, he'll sell their deal for them, and then they'll just work out a commission.
It's really good practice as well. If you want to go into deal sourcing, and you want to get the practice of finding deals, going out, speaking to people, beginning to grow your list as you before you got that, it's a really good way of making money, but you're practicing, you're learning.
Yeah. Tell me about how you grow your investor list. That's something that I think people are really keen to find out.
Yeah, so a lot of networking, a hell of a lot of networking. I don't drive. I've got a complicated driving history, but I don't drive at the moment. It's the best way of putting it, I tell you. We could be here all night. But so I've spent about £4,000 on trains in the last 8 months. Spent far too long on one yesterday. And get out and meet people, as you say, speak to agents. I met an estate agent yesterday who does flips in her spare time, but she's an estate agent, so she's an investor. She's got money. You meet people all over the place, vendors. You get things like vendor finance, networking in all your standard things like PPN, BNI, all the rest of them. You tend to find, if you're a deal sourcer, that if you go to those, you'll find a lot of other deal sources. Other than that, I look to go to things like development conferences and other business seminars. In London, you're blessed. There's so many. There's probably one every night if you look hard enough. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of money here. And especially what I found interesting was going to these developer places. You've got big CEOs and FDs of companies that are used to doing £100 million projects. Now, in their mind, to get into a property, it's like 50 million minimum. You start selling deals that they only need 50 grand for, their CEO head comes off, and their personal, I've got 200 grand in the bank. Let's do something.
Has it been helpful so far? Yes. You don't have any questions? Yeah, do you want to stand up? We'll get a microphone on this lady right here. We'll get a mic on you right now.
Thank you. If you come to view property and agent telling you that the property been repossessed, so no water, no light, how would you deal with that? How do you check and...
Did you say, sorry, if it had been repossessed?
Yeah.
So typically repossessions, you put an offer in, it'll stay on the market until completion. What I found interesting though is once you have a market on, they put it online, people go, oh, there's already an offer on it. You don't really get gazumped that often. I think we bought 3 quite recently. It's exactly the same as a standard purchase, but be careful and ask at the start if there's a date by which you have to complete by. Some of them are like 4 weeks, in which case if you want to get a mortgage, you need to be very, very, very quick. It's possible, but your broker needs to be really good. You need to be really experienced in what you're doing, and you got to have everything lined up. My personal preference is buy with cash in that perspective. Does that help? Fabulous.
Awesome. Maybe 1 or 2 more. Yeah, so stand up. We'll get a mic on this guy right at the very front. Do you want to stand up so they can see you? Awesome.
Cheers. 2 parts. What were you doing before you got into property? And second part is what made you do the dive?
As in jump into property? Okay. So before I was in property, I was a freelance sound engineer and I worked in tax. I worked tax for about 3 months, got very, very, very bored. I discovered Samuel. I read his book. At the end of his book, it says, this is what you need to do if you want to get into property. 3 days after that, I got offered a job as a Sparky, as an electrician. And he said, I'll put you through college, pay for all that. And I was like, I am not interested in that type of education, mate. I'm only going to be here like a year. And I was right. 9 months later, I was out. Why did I get into property? It sank in when I was at the DFE how awesome these types of people are. It's a different mindset. Like, you don't stress about things, you sleep well. Like, it's hard to really explain, but you look at things in a different way, your perspective shifts. And it's comforting in some respects when you meet people who are like that. You kind of finally feel understood in some respects. Because that entrepreneurial mind is very, very, very different to people who are small-minded or really risk-adverse, who like regularly do things where start now, perfect later, and just do it. If there's a problem, we'll work it out down the line. It doesn't really matter. Like, there's time, there's people you can ask. Just get the deal done. Worry about the small print. Worry about the XYZ later. And for me, experiencing that world of different people, that mindset was what really sort of stuck. I left the first day and was like, I have to sign up. I have to be part of this. I cannot let this pass. And I am so glad I did.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. All right, one more question for James, and then we'll move on. Who's got a real burning question? Yeah, all right, go for it. Good to have you back at the crash course.
Yeah, thank you. I could not come, or not to come. I have a very interesting for you, James, because there is a deal I've spoken about with Samuel a couple of weeks ago, and it's actually getting there. There is a property around Windsor area, which a vendor wants to for £3,500 per month, but the a net monthly income could be at around, net income would be £6,000 to £8,000. So it is important for us because there is an investor that is working with me, and we want to make sure that obviously that will go through and then we make the money. How do I convince the vendor that he actually can go below the £3,500 and he actually is doing a good deal?
Is this a rent-to-rent?
It is, yeah, basically.
Is it rent-to-SA or rent-to...
Rent-to-SA. Well, it is rent-to-SA, although there are 3 apartments in the house, or we're going to split it into 3 apartments, and that's how we want to make money. But we believe that obviously we don't have enough cash to put in straight, forward like 3.5 grand and then pay all the fees for agencies, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that after 12 months maybe we can offer something. What do we do just to make sure that we can actually secure that?
The first thing I'd say is if you're paying 3 grand and you can make 8, there's a pretty decent amount of profit there. If you're making money and you're happy with the amount of money you're making, it's a good deal. You don't need to screw someone over just to make an extra couple of quid. Second thing is if you're struggling to raise enough money for a rent-to-SA, you need to work harder. The amount of money in, or deposit, maybe a light refurb at worst. I can't imagine spending more than like 10, 15 grand on that up front.
I think are you on the extravaganza?
I am on the, I am.
Okay, in that case,
we'll chat about it then.
Can have a
okay.
In a nutshell.
As part of the extravaganza, we'll assess your deals.
Okay.
So I'll happily get James or one of the team to sit with you and go through it in
no
detail.
worries. Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
In a nutshell, I think it makes more than enough money. It's a good deal. Take it.
Okay.
Or sell it on.
But we need to have a chat one-on-one if you're on the extravaganza.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, mate.
Well done. Thanks for coming back. James, you're amazing. James is around all weekend, so you can always find him in the breaks, pick his brain, things like that, make the most of him while he's here. And James, you're an incredible guy, and
Thank you very much.
It's a real honour to have worked with you and helped you become
Cheers.
financially free.
Thank you.
All right.